as of WordPress 5.8, Gutenberg blocks are now widgets. And that means any place you've used widgets in your theme on your website in the past, you will now be using blocks. So what you need to know is that blocks are replacing traditional widgets in all of the widget areas that your theme supports. Every theme is different in terms of where it supports widgets. So things like the sidebar or the footer or sometimes the header. All of those places where you'd put a widget, you'll now put blocks. But don't worry, you're not losing any functionality because all of those legacy widgets that are built into WordPress have been converted to blocks. So you have the same functionality. There are just a couple of old widgets that haven't been converted yet, and those are supported in a new special widget called Legacy Widgets. And you'll use that Legacy widget for things like your navigation menu if you care to place something like that in your sidebar. Now, if you miss the old widget screen and the old widgets and the old way of doing things because maybe you haven't converted to Gutenberg yet, maybe you're still using the classic editor, you should know there is a plugin for you called Classic Widgets that will restore all of the classic widget functionality to WordPress. Now, we're going to take a look at the new block-powered widgets, and there are a couple of different screens we need to take a look at. So let's jump into WordPress and see what the block-powered widgets look like. So I'm on my test website, and I want to add perhaps a social widget to my footer. In the theme I'm using here, the footer is really where the widgets are. There are no other widget areas. So to do that, an easy way to get to the widgets is to click Customize, and that will open the Theme Customizer. And of course, the Theme Customizer has a menu option for widgets. So I'm going to click on that. And when I get to that, I see the widgets that are already placed. And as I said, these are in the footer, so I have to scroll all the way down here to see them. And those are the widgets. You can see these are block-based widgets. So if I want to reorder these, I would just select one of the widgets. And then I have this Move Down button up here. And I can move, as you see, as I'm moving this down. It's moving over to the next column and then to the last column. So if I move the search box there from the first column to the third column, that's one way to move things around. Actually, I think that's the only way to move things around because when you click on one of these widgets, you get the widget options. You don't really see the kind of drag controls that you see in the normal post editor. So I want to add a widget here. I'm going to add it to maybe the middle column. I'm going to click the plus button. And that opens up a block selector, very much like you would see in the post editor. So let me search for social. Social icons, I'm going to select that. Now this is the social icon block, and the way it works is I have to add individual social icons. Which social media sites do I want to share? So of course I want to share my WordPress site, and my Twitter account, and probably Facebook. Now for these to show up, I need to enter the address for each one of the places that these icons should link to. So I'm going to go ahead and click on each one of these icons, and it gives me an option to enter the address. And I'm going to go ahead and do that quickly. And so I've entered all of the addresses, and now you can see the icons have become visible. And as I hover over them in the preview, you can see they kind of expand to get a little bit larger to indicate that you've selected it. And the links now work and would link to my visitors to my social media accounts. And this process of setting up this social widget with these icons that I added is identical to the way it would be using Gutenberg in the post editor. So everything you know about working with Gutenberg in the post editor carries over to working with Gutenberg in the widget area. I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And now I will have these social icons in the footer of my website on every single page. So that's how you add the block widgets from the theme customizer. But of course, there's another way to add widgets. There's the standard old-fashioned appearance widgets menu. Let's go take a look at that. That's got a fresh makeover and looks very, very different from what it looked like previously. So back in WordPress admin, I'm going to go to appearance and widgets. And now you will see a box that shows that I've got the footer widget area, and that's the only widget area in this theme. You will possibly have other widget areas depending on which theme you're using. And you can see there are my blocks that have been positioned in my footer. I don't have a preview. That's one disadvantage. But the advantage of the screen you will see in a second. I'm going to add a gallery. It's always nice to be able to add some media to your sidebar or your footer. I'm going to select this from my library. Create a new gallery. Insert the gallery. And off to the right, I get all of these standard controls that I would see if I was adding a gallery to a new post or page. So I can adjust the column width if I want to. 2 columns, so I got 2 on top and a bigger one below. And I like the way that looks. I'm going to post that by clicking Update. And I can add any other widget that is available to my widget area that way. Now I need to go take a preview to actually see this. This is the one disadvantage of adding your widgets from this widget screen. You do get all of the detailed settings off to the right, but you don't get the preview like you do in the theme customizer. So let me go open my home page and scroll down to the bottom to see what this looks like. So that is where it's positioned. Now, if I wanted to move it to another column, I could open again in the theme customizer, as I was just doing, and click on Widgets. Now, let me scroll down here so we can see what I'm doing. One thing you'll notice is that when I click on this gallery, as I did previously when I was in the other widget area, I'm not getting all of those settings that were available. I can get some settings to add more, but there's no obvious way for me to do something like change the columns. So there may be times when, depending on which widget you're working with, I should say block, depending on which block you're working with, and depending on what you're trying to do with that block, you may need to switch between the admin widget editor, which is under appearances, or the theme customizer, which is what we're seeing on the front end here. So that's just something to consider when you're working with these new block-based widgets. And that's a quick overview of the new widget blocks or block widgets, whichever you prefer, along with some pointers on things to look out for so you don't run into problems as you're using these widget blocks.